Everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek. Happy New Year. We're back with part 2 of our 2023 year review. The last video, we made it up to the end of May, where we had just finished TNG number 35. And now we're jumping right into TNG number 36, the 16th TNG book of the year. I think I need to spread it out a little bit more. We're really hitting those ones hard. Anyway, this was written by Gene DeWeese. I like Gene DeWeese's stuff. Let's see what kind of notes we have. Terrible notes. But data saves the day. Characters were well done. And something was in Corellis. Ah, yes. A generation ship. That was very interesting. Anytime you have these kind of big sci-fi concepts like that, that's always good. So, very interesting concept there. And then that took us into our second Trek break of the year, where we read the second book in the Dark Tower, The Drawing of Three. If you're into those kind of books, a very fun series. Just kind of draws you right in, brings you along, and took me just 2 days to breeze through that one. So that was a very short Trek break that we took there. And then we decided to finally mix it up a little bit, and we read TOS book, The Final Reflection by John M. Ford, which was a book within a book. This one was a very... I didn't take very good notes at all on this, but it revolved... I remember there was a game called Klinza. Imagery of an angry mob by a train. Oh, yeah, so like kind of early days of... Alright, this one was good. I'm just going to say, I remember liking it. I liked how it was a book within a book. And basically it starts out with like Kirk... they're talking about this book, and then they go into the book and they read it, and then they learn kind of all these different things. Just very interesting. So that was a great TOS book. And then we didn't have a full review on the channel for TNG number 7, Masks by John Vornholt, so we did reread and re-review that at that time. Which is good. That's always a fun book to read, and I was glad to go back and read it a second time. They visit this strange planet where everybody wears masks all the time, and the masks determine their status. Just a lot of fun. So, after that, we got off of the numbered series and read The Battle of Beta Z by Charlotte Douglas and Suzanne Kearney. Yes. Another TNG book, Lord. But this was also very cool, just given the whole story of what happened on Beta Z during the Dominion War. So you have Waxana Troy. Let's see. And also, there's a little bit of like past. It gives you a little bit of like Troy's past and that kind of stuff. So it's a Deanna novel, but needed more Deanna. More Riker and Deanna, I believe. That's what it was missing. But just a very fun book all in all. So, and then we took another Trek break, and we read the third book in the Dark Tower series, The Wastelands. Again, just continuing on that very strange but interesting story, and looking forward to jumping back into that later on this year. So, and it looks like at that time we wanted to get into more Dominion War stuff. So we read the short story collection, Tales of the Dominion War. And I'm really not going to be able to mark that one properly because this is it's a short story collection, but features so many great authors. So Michael Jan Friedman, Greg Cox, Keith R.A. DeCandido, David Mack, Dave Galanter, Howard Weinstein, and much, much, much more. Much more. Just a very interesting collection of stories showing all different angles from the Dominion side, the Federation side, the Klingon side, Just very fun book. So, and then we jumped right back into the TNG stuff with Brad Ferguson's The Last Stand. And had I read Brad yet this year? It does not look to be so. So Brad Ferguson's The Last Stand. This was a book about something. Yes, okay. So what I liked about this book was one of the things that I like about Trek books in general. And here's a quote from the author. If you are going to write a Trek novel, you should write something that they can't film. Put in thousands of things that they can't film. And that's what this did. This took and basically had like this gigantic, incredible, I don't even know how to describe it, but let me see. I did write I did a picture of it here. But it just gives, it's one of those sci-fi concepts that, again, you couldn't film because it would just be too crazy, too much going on, and it was a very large-scale book, and ultimately ended up being one of my favorite TNG books that I had read in the year, so very fun. Okay, and then we read TNG number 38, Dragon's Honor, by Keys Johnson and Greg Cox. And this was this was an interesting one. One of those typical Trek tropes, where we have a planet of some kind of past human society. And here you have the Dragon Empire that kind of mimic a medieval Chinese society. So that was interesting. The book was transparent from the start, but it didn't matter. At least that's what I wrote. And just all in all, it was very kind of standard Trek stuff, but with a kind of a fun, different spin on it. So, okay, Keys, Johnson, and Greg Cox. Okay. TNG number 39, Rogue Saucer. This was written by John Vornholt, and this was interesting, where the saucer section gets stolen, and they have this, I don't know, kind of this whole big chase, and they got this other separate saucer. Goodness here is in the action. Also a very different tone. A lot of death in this book. That was one of the things that I wrote down, and I remember now thinking about it. Seemed like a lot more people got killed in very violent ways in this book than you typically have in your normal standard Star Trek books. So, TNG number 40, Possession, by J.M. Dillard and Kathleen O'Malley. This one featured Techno. Oh yes, the Techno Fair. They're on their way to the Techno Fair, and there's just kind of plan to infect everybody at the Techno Fair. This was a sequel to a TOS book called Demons, and again, a very interesting book. And I wrote here in the end, busting ghosts, hurting zombies. So that's kind of where this was ending up. A darker than usual book with a solid end. So, I feel a sneeze coming along. Excuse me. Goodness. Okay, so we took another. Okay, that's probably not the last one. We took another Trek book break, and we read Dark Tower 4, Wizard and Glass, which brought us into August, and we finally did a little bit more TOS, and we read Diane Carey's First Strike. And I don't know what it was that made me pick this one up, but it had a great space battle ending. Tractor beam becomes key, but Spock and Kirk in battle with Klingons. Spock injured. Nice. Okay, I don't remember much about this one, but Diane Carey always writes a good book, so I'm sure it was enjoyable. We kept on with our TNG March with TNG number 41, The Soldiers of Fear. This is Dean Wesley Smith and Christine Kathleen Rush again. I got them here somewhere. Yep, here we are. So that's 2 by them. The Soldiers of Fear. Okay, yeah, so here we're talking. This was a part of the mini-series or whatever it was that crosses between all of the different shows here. So this was a TNG one, which was the Soldiers of Fear, and the Furies are an interesting enemy. So basically, this whole series of 4 books is all about people, or the different crews in different eras facing off against the Furies, who are this kind of like, basically they're like devils, or like each member of the race kind of resembles something out of like somebody's nightmare past, So very interesting there. This one had a great space battle ending at the end. A new character, Lieutenant Redbay, who comes up later in the series. So just another enjoyable TNG book, and had fun with that one. The next one is a great DS9 book written by L.A. Graff. Again, it does a lot of good DS9 stuff. This one featured time travel shenanigans, which was very, very good. Going to the future. Oh man, yeah, there was a lot going on in this one. I especially liked, I guess I don't know, the way they. I don't want to break it down too much, but there's like an extra symbiote in it. The new aliens that come in are. So there's like the Furies, but then there's the creatures that scattered the Furies years ago. And this kind of shows them as well, and they're worse than the Furies even. So that's a really interesting and fun one, and it was good to get more DS9 going. So the third book, it's Voyager number 9, which is the Final Fury, written by David Abhue. This is the prelude to the story of the Furies. So this goes back to early Voyager seasons, and it is kind of, since they're on that side of the galaxy, they're where the Furies were sent to. So this has a lot of interesting stuff in it too, with Tuvok and Janeway try to like stand up to their fear that naturally is kind of sent onto them by these creatures. They're able to rescue Redbay, who's a character who came in from the other one, and they're able to save the day in the end, and with some very kind of big ideas and big stories in that one. So that was very cool as well. So did we miss something here? No, we're good. Okay, so that was the 4. The first one was First Strike. That was the Diane Carey. An interesting series of books focusing on this, I don't know, the race of the Furies was an interesting idea. And all in all, it's a fun crossover event that happens where you can kind of get a little bit of interesting story from everyone. Oh, then we read another short story book, Everything's Eventual, by Stephen King, because that kind of played into the Dark Tower series. So we did kind of filter in a little bit of Trek break here and there throughout that time of the year. And then it was at that point I decided I need to read more Voyager and more other things as well. So we jumped right into the Voyager number novels, and we read the Caretaker, the number 1, the first Voyager book, and it was interesting. You get again an inside view, which is always fun with a novelization of an episode. It was written by L.A. Graff, so you've got good stuff there already, and also it was written before the episode premiered, so they had to write it based upon like what the writers gave them, basically. So that was very interesting. So, and then I was able to read the first original Voyager novel, Dean Wesley Smith and Christine Catherine Russ. There we go. The Escape. And The Escape was a... Let's see, was this a... Oh, yeah, there was a time travel shenanigans here. Yeah, this was an interesting concept about this world who lived in time. So they would send their people back to, because they knew that their sun was going to explode at a certain date and time. So they sent their people back, and they lived in earlier time periods. So that was a very cool concept and a very fun book. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. And then I guess we decided we needed some more TNG. We did TNG number 42, The Infiltrator, another W.R. Thompson book. And this was a... Let's see. Oh, yeah, this one. I did have a lot of fun with this. This talked about a race of kind of like superhumans called the Herons, and who were trying to take over. So this was good. This was... a lot of interesting things going on in this one, and some new characters as well. Just a good mystery, a good mystery book with a surprise end. So, and then we kept on with our Voyager reading after that, and we did Ragnarok by Nathan Archer. We got Nathan on the list yet? I don't think we do. So that was the first by him this year. Alright, so Ragnarok. Or as I like to call it, Listen to Neelix, the novel. I remember that, and I wrote that in the notes too. But basically, Neelix was like, don't go that way. Janeway was like, well, I think I'm going to go that way. They went that way, and it was very, very, very bad. And again, a very interesting... huge sci-fi concept where you have a war that takes up an entire galaxy. So, cool concept, fun book, and Neelix got us props because, you need to listen to Neelix. So, we did another Voyager book. We did Voyager number 4 by Susan Wright. We've got Susan on the list here somewhere, I am sure. There she is. This was a... yes, they get their core stolen, their computer core, and they have to work through this kind of series of almost like criminal cartel houses in space to get it back. And I took terrible notes on that one, but I do remember that one being a lot of fun. So we went over to the TOS side for this with, I think, John Ford's How Much for Just the Planet. I believe. I didn't write down the author here for once, so I'm just guessing. Forgive me if I'm wrong. How Much for Just the Planet? Ford. Okay. This was a very kind of like a fun, silly book where they get into yeah, there's songs. I remember there being songs in this, and basically like the whole thing. I don't want to give it away. It's different. It's very different. It's very fun, and it's worth a read. I wrote here right at the top. This is a weird one. All right, so then we actually did something we'd never done before, and we read our first Enterprise book, written by... I didn't write it down either. A Choice of Futures. I think it was Christopher Bennett. I'm just going to say I think it was Christopher Bennett. I mean, I really slacked off here at the end of the year, didn't I? This brought us in... And anyway, just so you know, we are now at November. This is in November now. Coming up here to the end of the year. And we finished it up there with a nice Enterprise book, which made me realize that if I want to read the Enterprise books, I do have to go back. And I got to read the earlier ones first, because this one made me want to read about the Romulan War. So definitely we need to do more of that this year. So, but this was an interesting one, showing the Enterprise crew in their like next step, you know. So you had Captain Malcolm Reed, captain to Paul of the Endeavor. Of course, the Enterprise is out of commission at this time. But that was a lot of fun, and just good to be able to read an Enterprise book, finally. Okay, we jump back into TNG again with A Fury Scorn by Pamela Sargent and George Zabrowski. And Underwater Institute, take better notes. Again, this is the second time that I've told myself in the notes to take better notes. I should do that so that I can talk better and more educated about the books. But this was an interesting one. This was a planet that was doomed, right? And they had to make like this moral choice, you know. Can we just take who we can take and get out of here before the sun explodes? Or do we take a fantastic risk and try to save the whole planet, but maybe doom the Enterprise? So really cool, really fun book there, and just an interesting concept. So that brought us up to mid-November, and then we finished up November with Star Trek TNG number 44, A Death of Princes, written by John Peel, which was the we'll add that up later in the finale. John Peel. Oh, our second John Peel novel of the year. So, A Death of Princes. This was good. I really enjoyed this. You had kind of two books in one, two stories in one, where they have to do one mission, one urgent mission, and then another mission they have to send a shuttlecraft to. So they're split between these two missions. Each is a different, completely separate story from the other, but they do it and they tell this story. John Peel tells the story very well, and both are interesting. And even though he puts two stories into one book, it works. It works out well, and you kind of bounce back and forth between them. And in the end, it was a great read. So, and that was it, ladies and gentlemen. That was it for the Trek reading for 2023. After that, it turned over to December, and I spent the entire month of December reading the entire Lord of the Rings, the whole thing, the Fellowship, the Two Towers, the Return of the King, and it was fantastic. Oh my goodness, what a blast! What can I say other than if you haven't read that, definitely try to get that in sometime, because it's just one of the staple fantasy books that everyone who's interested in this kind of stuff should read. So that's how we finished off 2023. Now we have to start thinking about where do we go going forward in 2024. So that's what we're going to look at now. So should we look at that now, or should we do that in a separate video? You know what we're going to do? Check this out. We're going to transport to the past. So I'm going to make another video after this where I'm going to upload it before these ones with a conclusion as to what we read and where we need to go from here. So let's end this one right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. As always, live long and prosper, and we'll see you all in the next one.